What's up, family? It's your main man, Coach Crump, with another great episode of the Boy Man King podcast. And I'm with my main man, Chizzy. Say
My
what's up
boy,
with the people, man.
what's going on, man? I'm excited for this conversation. We have
Listen, man, we
Ariana in
got
the
to be
building.
gentlemen. We
Excited.
must be gentlemen today.
Okay.
You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Because we have a lady amongst our midst. Ladies and
Yes.
gentlemen, I want to welcome to the platform none other than a powerful woman of God. She got the
Mhm.
juice, she got the sauce. Man, she is mature. She is spirit led. Man, she knows the word. Man, she is doing work in the community. I want you to stand to your feet, make some noise, put some information in the chat, make some comments, like, share, give it up for Ariana Lucene. And
Yeah.
she got the game. She got the game. Give it up for her. Give it up
Yeah.
for her. Yeah, man. Thank you so much for taking the time
So
to be on
happy
the
to have
platform. Welcome.
Thank you. I think that was like one of the best introductions I've had on a podcast. That's a lot.
Now listen, let me tell you why it's so important to amp up your message and your platform and what you got going. We had a post-production dinner when we had an in-studio recording, and my wife and one of our members of our team were just sitting around while four men are just talking about being men. And
you.
I was telling them about how men deal with the boy and the monster and the God, right? Like every
Mhm.
man deals with that. And I'm expressing myself. And my wife at this time had been with me for over 20 years. And she was like, I never knew you was dealing with that. You know what I mean? And I was just saying, I was like, what you mean you never knew? You know what I mean? Because I'm like, woman of God, she goes before the Lord, she's doing her thing, she supports me my whole life. I'm like, you didn't know that men war in their minds with stuff like this every single day, all the time. She said,
Yeah.
and then her therapist who counsels men, who went to
Mm.
school, got a degree on top of degree, was like, I didn't know either.
Yep.
And I was like, we have to have a conversation
Yeah.
because what's the obvious gap? My coach says everything happens in the gap. Is that
Mhm.
men and women fundamentally don't understand how we're just biologically wired and
Yeah.
accepting that. We're just saying, oh, I got these expectations I projected on you, and you're supposed to just get it.
Mhm.
No, I'm not you, and I will never get it because I'm not you. And that's always something we have to have a conversation so that we can understand to accept the difference. Not to
Yeah.
understand for you to be like it, but to understand and accept the difference. We saw your content to just advocate for that, speak to that, and it was a refreshing because like, this sister gets it. Tell us, what was your aha moment, or was it always something you was conscious of, or was something you grew into to realize, man, okay, men are dealing with something completely different. Talk
Yeah.
about it.
No, it's definitely something you grow into. It's not. I don't feel like it's something you always know. It's definitely something you grow into and still growing into.
Come
Like,
on, that part.
let's be clear. I don't know that I'm gonna come into like the fullness of it, but I've been married twice. So
Mm.
I was married in my 20s, young, and then I got remarried to my husband. Now we've been married going on 10 years.
Come on, hold on. We ain't gonna
And
drive by that. We're not gonna drive by that. We're not gonna drive by your blessings. You know what I'm saying? Congratulations. Well done.
thank you. And it has been a challenge because men and women are so different. And then also, I just think how men versus women are taught to handle each other are different. So for me, my coming into it really came from my relationship with Christ and understanding how God set this whole situation up, especially when it comes to marriage, as men being the head and, wife being submissive. And for women, especially now in culture, there's such a negative connotation to submission. There's such a negative connotation to like being meek and mild and like holding your voice and things like that. And so it created this really disconnect, especially in my marriage, of like I get we as women want to be like empowered and like all the things, right? But like you don't want to overpower a man. Because the same way that a woman was created as a helper, the man was created to also do certain things.
Yeah.
And that is to cover. And so for me, my learning came when me and my husband was having a lot of hard time just communicating. Like we're just not understanding each other. Like you're not getting me, I'm not getting you, and we're just like bumping heads. And my husband's like, you just want to be the leader. And everything in me is like, I really don't. Like I genuinely don't want to lead. But when, as a woman, you feel unheard, or you come from, like I said, I was already pre-married previously, and so I went through the whole like having to be a single mom and da da da, you know. So you develop this idea that you have to be
Yeah.
everything,
Yeah.
whether it's for a small portion or a long portion. And then my father passed when I was little, so my mom had to be. So you get all of these views as a girl of what it looks like when you have to be something. So then to get married to a man that you don't have to be that, you have to unlearn it. You have to unlearn how to be an alpha female. That's not, nowhere in the Bible does God say he made us alpha females. That's not a thing, right? So I had to unlearn all these things. So last year is kind of where God really set me down and was like, you're the problem. You're actually the problem.
Wow.
And you have to stop and allow this man to be a man to you. But you really could only learn that by submitting to God. And I had to walk that out. Like, my husband said one thing to me that really broke me, because like you said about your wife, she's a woman of God, and you're like, you know, we women, we go hard for God, right? Like, we do all the things. And my husband looked at me about a year or two ago, and he said, do you think that your relationship with me mirrors your relationship with God? And I was like,
Drop the mic. Ah.
Come on, man.
drop the mic.
Call me Lord,
Yeah.
Lord. You know what I'm saying? Call me Lord, Lord.
Like, what do you say to that? How can you say that? It's rhetorical, obviously, but it's a good reflection piece. Sorry, not to chime in real quick,
Yeah.
but that is direct reflection of the mindset and the shift that's required to get you to a healthy place with God first. How am I a reflection of what God asked me to be? How am I showing up in my relationships? And of course, it spans all types of relationships. What would God ask me to be first in this particular space? So that's a realization that a lot of people don't really get to. So that's hugely commendable for a lot of reasons, because everybody wants to point the finger at everyone else and
Mm.
say you need to sort out yourself with God first. You need to do this and you need to do that. But when you take accountability and responsibility for your relationship with Christ first, it opens up a door for others. So sorry, I'll let you continue.
No, 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 definitely. And what it did to me was, because as a woman of God, like, our top priority is to be pleasing to God, right? So then it made me have to stop and say, like, are there similarities? And I think we feel like when it comes to men and versus God, that like you're two different people. And that's not how habits work. Like, you are who you are, and you're that way with mostly everybody. It may manifest differently, but you're that way. And so I started to ask myself, like, what if me not submitting to what my husband says and things like that is like a mirror of like things I'm doing with God, and I didn't want that. So then that made me have to like start cleaning up my act, because I don't know how it actually is manifesting my behavior externally with my husband. I didn't know how it was manifesting with my relationship with God. And because God is the head of our lives, of this marriage, I didn't want to like be doing, does that make sense? Like, I didn't want to be carrying that same behavior to God. And so I was like, okay, I really got to deal with it. And God's been taking me on this journey of just like slowing down to understand what the word says a wife is and how a woman should be, instead of how the world says. Because if we go
Time
with the
out.
world,
Time out. I just gotta do a timeout. I just gotta do a timeout. You're not gonna drive by that. Yeah, I'm not gonna let you just drive by. Keep talking. Let's make a pause, because my wife shares with me. Shout out to Next Level Nick, man. You guys will be a great connection, man. Next Level Nick on IG. My wife told me something profound this past year. She said, Chris, women gotta do the work of reading the word, of what the word says about a wife, because it is clear in First Corinthians chapter 7. It is clear in Second Peter. It is clear in Ephesians 5. It is clear all across the word. It don't mix it words. It tells you exactly what you should be doing with your body, with your words, with your
yep,
time. And it's like, what happens is you be in church and you do the church stuff, but you know what you don't actually do is read the words. When you
yep,
said, man, when I got, you said you worked on yourself. You said a lot of good things, but then you said, I got into that word
yeah.
about that, and that what the word says and what the world says, two totally different things.
And I and I
Speak to
would
that.
I would venture to say that that exploration, it yields I would say a more favorable result in independence when you're in a single space, because the bumping heads that can happen, even when you're going through that exploration in a relationship, can become problematic. Um, I'm gonna put a plug real quick and a pause in it real quick, and I'm gonna go backwards a little bit if I may, because of course you're speaking so eloquently about the space that you occupy now, and this endeavor to be God-like and God-fearing in how you show up in your relationship in your marriage. I want you to take us back a little bit, because here at Boy Man King, we talk about the journey into kingship for men. So we're going to talk about the journey into queenship for a woman, and what that looked like growing up, and what was that switch that you experienced that said, "Hey, I may need to make some adjustments in how I'm showing up before at first, so I can now become the best wife and the best version of myself first, for my husband." So take us a little bit back in
Yeah.
growing and what that was like, and your aha moments that led you on this path that you call.
Well, really, what got me to this journey is I went through 5 years of suicidal depression, and it was hard. It was difficult. It was very challenging, and a lot of it came from people who went to church. I don't like saying from the church because the church is a God institution. There are people who go to church who can hurt you, right? Because we're just people at the end of the day. And there was a lot of, I mean, I went through a lot of public humiliation and different things like that. And in the beginning of our marriage, we just went through a lot. It was like the devil was gunning for us, like nobody's business. And I find myself going through and slipping into very, 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 very deep depression. Like I said, suicidal depression and multiple suicidal attempts and drinking. And this is like, I'm going to church every Sunday. Okay, let's be clear. I didn't miss a Sunday. And I was going home after church wanting to commit suicide and depressed and all the things. And so I come from a background of like my family's in church and things like that. And you find yourself being so lonely surrounded around people,
Yeah, yeah,
and you can be lonely and you can be in church and suicidal, like, and I love talking about this because there's a piece of being a Christian that we feel like we don't experience this stuff, so we don't talk about it in church and we're not breaking it down and we're not opening it up. But there's so many people who go to church every Sunday who are leaders. Like, I'm a leader, I'm on the praise team, I'm over the dance team, I'm all these things, who are experiencing depression and suicidal thoughts and sadness and turmoil in their house, not understanding, like, how do I get out of this? So for me, it started going through that. And in that process, God really taught me, number one, like, what real love was.
yeah.
And the world's love is everything's perfect. Everybody likes me. Everything's good. I'm getting likes. I'm getting this. I got friends. But real love is taking you through a transformation that makes you better.
Mhm.
Like, I had to understand that my husband correcting me was love. That's not that's not a knock on who I am as a woman. It's not to break me down. And but if he loves me, he's going to correct me. If he loves me, he should stop me from doing something that's not good for me, right? But I had to first learn that with God. And that's what that 5 years of depression took me through, was learning God's correction is love. And I feel like we don't talk about that enough. That's why so many called phenomenal, called people by God, as soon as something goes wrong or they're going through a season where things are not easy and they're challenging and they suck, we feel like God don't love us. But the scriptures say, those that I love, I prune,
Chastise.
I
Yeah.
chastise. That is actual love. Like, we have 4 children. We're not gonna watch our children just do something off the wall and just sit back. That's not love. So through those 5 years, God had to teach me real love, not fairy tale love. And so then I feel like after He finished teaching me that through a very difficult process, then now I'm on this journey of learning what real love is with my husband, because it is God, the man, then the woman. And that doesn't make anybody less than in the other one, but it also is just a matter of maturity and understanding that the reason it is set up this way is because we all play a significant piece for one another.
Come on.
So after I came out of that and learning God's love, I feel like that opened up my heart to then learn about the love between me and my husband.
Mhm.
And like I said, my dad died when I was young. My dad died when I was 7. So, and I have a lot of great men in my family, but nothing replaces your father.
Sure.
So even in learning about men and my husband, things like that, I had to go all the way back to like what I missed as a kid. Like I had to understand, like I really didn't know how to be a wife. I had to understand that, like, because my dad died when I was 7. My mom got remarried for a very like small portion of time, so I didn't really see her be a wife. I saw her be a mom. I'm a phenomenal mom, but I didn't have to see her communicate with a man. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have to see how she handled conflict with a man. So for me, I tell a lot of the girls that I mentor, like, I thank God that y'all are learning before you get married because learning it in marriage is hard. It's a fight.
Yeah,
Yeah, man.
trust me, I knew that too well. I come from a divorce space myself, and the journey I've taken post divorce is very different from the journey that I would have taken in my marriage. But God's grace, God's will, purpose is what it is. And once you find that, I think that's the takeaway is finding that purpose.
Yeah.
And to the point, it's easier to sometimes it's better served for you to find that outside of a relationship than in a relationship because at some point your partner will suffer, you will suffer, and the relationship can suffer if the grounding isn't where it could be. For sure, for sure.
Yeah, I just love to listen to you talk. You're a great communicator, Ariana. That's
Thank
number
you.
one. And I want you to make sure you shout out your program. But I want to go back to thank you for sharing the word. But I also want you to talk about you said God, man, and woman because
Hmm.
this is what I coach. Man is the most important.
Hmm.
Women are the most powerful. He said,
Mm.
listen, God made like you can't not build no civilization, no group, no even in the animal kingdom. You need that male. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
listen, we gotta have that one. We gotta have that male,
Yeah.
but for it to grow, for it to be a community, for it to be a home, for it to be
Mm.
creative, for it to be something that's an aura, something that is a vibe, something that's a spirit.
Mm.
You need the woman. I mean, because a
Yes.
man is more I gotta protect, I gotta provide. I'm very logical, but it's
Yeah.
not good for him to be alone because sometimes he get lost with his emotions, get lost with his mental, get lost. And a woman knows how to not only be good for herself, but through God's divine wisdom, through her. I
Mm.
call my wife wisdom. She can also do this thing where she can be in the kitchen and it makes the whole
Mm.
house better. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? But
Yeah.
the crazy thing is if she's not in the spirit, she could be in the kitchen and it makes the whole house worse.
Yeah.
Yes, say,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? So for me,
For
it's
sure.
like talk about how we got to understand those powers. Like
Yeah.
he's a necessity for us
Yeah.
to be
And
anchored.
it's different
But
coming
I'm
from a woman than coming from
yeah.
a man. If we say it, it
Yeah.
comes across different.
Hmm.
Sometimes it could be received as appeasing a woman's role, but when a woman actually validates and speaks to purpose through God, it sounds and it conveys a different message to the
Yeah.
women and even to the man who struggle to understand their role within the relationship.
Yeah. I think the biggest switch for me was stop looking at my husband like he also wasn't a child of God. There's like this arrogance with women, and I'm not like I'm a woman, so I'm it. But I got to break down all this stuff that the devil has like ran rampant and like got us really tripping out as women, like as if that's not God's son, and God don't care about how you treat him. That really messed me up because then it changes how I handle my husband. It changes how I handle my son. I have a son. Like, because that's also God's child. And I think sometimes where it gets so jacked up is like we as women, we get this arrogance like, I'm God's daughter. For sure. Absolutely. And you deserve all the things. But that doesn't negate that that is his son and he created man first. So you have to give respect. And I think when we stop looking at it as just for a second as like title, like you're over me, but out of love again, because everything has to be rooted in love. And I love you enough to love you like God's son, because you're also a king. I will then bring myself down, right? Like I'll then calm myself as a woman. And this is the thing. I love what you said that women are like women have so much power, and I just feel like if we just like really think about it, it was a woman that caused this man to disobey God. Like that's a lot of influence.
a
Okay.
lot. A lot.
And even if you're thinking about a role in terms of, God say you need a helper, you need a helpmate.
Hmm.
Most times, the person that's the helper has so many resources accessible to them, so many gifts, so many talents, so many different areas of their life that they can compartmentalize for the benefit, of the team. And I think that even men sometimes don't even understand. We carry the vision a lot of times, but without this ancillary and those additional skills that we don't even have,
Yeah.
I don't
you'll
subscribe to
never be
that.
as
I don't
successful.
subscribe to that. I get my wife.
No, 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 no,
Listen,
no.
I know that I set a screen. Steph Curry got to shoot. I'm a great passer. Go ahead, girl, shoot. We all get a chip.
Yeah,
We all get a ring. Sign the contract, girl. You shoot that
No,
shot.
for sure.
yeah.
Listen, when people and I wrap it, I'll throw it back to you, Aaron. When people give me the act, because okay, Chris, you're a speaker, you're an author, you're a leader, you travel the world. When I met my wife 20, almost 24 years ago, I was and one shorts wearing, wife beater, Debo slippers with a black power pick in my hair. That's who she met. And who y'all are meeting now on Instagram is a husband, father, leader of people, leader of community. But I didn't even know I didn't even know how to write proper emails. I didn't know how
Mm.
to eat properly in public. My wife would knee me under the table. She was like, and she would do stuff with the like, and she would like, she was constantly my like,
He ain't
even though
lying.
I'm
I'm doing
her
20 plus
covering,
years. He's not lying.
I'm the covering of the man of the family. I felt like she was the covering of me. Like she made
Mm.
sure her man showed up in a way in public that was a great representation of us. And I never primed her. I never pricked her. I never poked at her.
Mm.
It's just something that her intuition just had it. But I
Mm.
always said, whatever you like about me, particularly if you met me in this season of my life,
Mm.
make sure you give my wife the kudos and credit, because
I love
I was
that.
just a ninja from the country who liked to slap box, who liked to rap battle, who liked to play ones on the blacktop. Like I was just another dude who, okay, well, me and God got a relationship. And she was like, baby, you need to finish your degree. Baby, you need to learn how to eat when you're
Mm.
dealing with meetings. You need to write appropriate emails when you. I'm like, okay, okay. Well, I could just call him. Like, no, you can't talk to him like that. Set up a meeting. So now that's 20 years ago. It's second nature. So it looked like I'm just, oh, I just got some
Right.
dope training and I just been like this. No, 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 no.
Right.
It's a lot of kudos go to that powerful woman
Mm.
that's next to me, man. And so as you talk about that, we want to, man, we got to make sure we do another show with you because you just got so much sauce.
We got
But
the
tell
live.
the people about just everything you got going on with your program with mentoring women. Tell them how they can get in contact with you, just and also your final thoughts.
Yeah, definitely. Well, on Instagram is probably the best place to reach me at this point. It's at Ariana Lucene, so it's just my name. And I do a lot of mindset coaching because a lot of becoming just the woman that God has called you to be and understanding the power of being a helper really comes to breaking down some of the mental blocks that we carry, whether it's from hurt or whatever, how we were raised and all those things. So if you're interested in just understanding how to become a better woman, first for yourself, for God, right? And then, if it is preparing for marriage or, in a relationship or in a marriage, if you're interested in that type of thing, definitely reach out to me at Ariana Hussein on Instagram. I do a lot of mentoring. I have women reach out to me all the time, like, do you have something going on? So I do a lot of one-on-one and I really tailor it because every woman is in a different stage. I've been in so many different stages in my life that it just depends on where you at is based off of kind of what spacing of coaching you need it in, So it may be I just want to be a stronger woman in God, It may not be marriage. So it just kind of depends. But if you ask me like my final thoughts, I would say this is that going to what you said, the power of a woman. Any woman watching, if you could just really understand the power of being meek and being submissive and being mild. And it's not even just like in marriage, right? Because your first husband is God. You got to learn that. That's what you can't be successful in marriage if you don't know how to submit to God. You're never going to submit to a man because you can't submit to the ultimate, right? But there is such a power in being a helper. God is our helper. We can call him for anything. So when God decided to make women a woman and said, let her be the helper, There was so much power that came with that. There were so many resources that came with that. There was so much intuition and all of the things. And so owning that power of being a woman is such a beautiful thing. And then when you get with a king, the power that's in that is unmatched.
Come on.
Like it's unmatched. It is something that cannot be broken when we as women understand our power and understand how to use it. Again, this is the last thing. It was Eve who convinced him to disobey God. So it ain't a lack of influence. It's just knowing how to use it properly that allows us to actually be successful in relationships with men.
I love it. Chizzy, final thoughts, man.
Hey, for all you single guys out there, man, this is insightful and it's rewarding for me as well. You know, as I enter into a new season, I'm sure I'm not the only single guy out there, obviously, but it's enriching to hear the perspective of a woman of God because I know right, man. I'm looking for a woman of God. I'm looking for that peace. I'm looking for that direction, that purpose for myself first, and obviously, a new partner. But I really appreciate the perspective because it's different. Like I said before, it sounds different. It's received different when it comes from the woman of God as well. So I really appreciate you spending time with us and giving us a snippet. We're gonna catch you on the live. We can have a lot more time on the live. So that's a shameless plug for that as well, man. But I really, really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you today. It's been
Thank
really
you.
encouraging
Yeah.
for a single guy like myself.
Thank
Yeah.
you. It's my
But
pleasure.
even encouraging as a married man like myself,
Yes, sir.
me and my wife talk about this all the time. It's not enough women making enough noise
Yeah.
because can't no man save no woman. You know what I mean? Can't no company like women have to like our culture. Man, I need to close out. I need to be obedient. But our culture, I feel like took a
Sure.
big hit when grandmamas
Yep.
of our family and our household wasn't holding standards for everybody in the house.
Yeah.
And we kind of lost a little bit of that. At least you always had a grandmama that was singing hymns and singing songs and baking and cooking and making sure you was accountable with trash and
Mm.
grass and everything else. And that was everybody reference point for the cultures. Now it's like everybody's trying to be an Instagram model. I'm not gonna say what type, but it just the problem is that we could just get women just to be valuing being a good woman is something
Yeah.
that's necessary for our culture, and that's first and foremost. So I just appreciate, even as a married man, that there's other women in the fight
Mm.
and mentoring other women on be a good woman first as a personal value to yourself, and then let's
Yes.
talk about everybody else. Like that's so refreshing that you're out here and you're public about it. Man, continue to be encouraged, sister. Continue to let your light shine. Continue to keep showing
Thank
up because we
you.
need you, not just for the community, for the culture, but for the kingdom. So I
Thank
appreciate you.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It
And
was
as
such
we
a pleasure.
yeah,
Thank
and as we say
you.
on the Boy Man King podcast, the
The
journey
journey
continues. That's our
continues.
time. Be blessed. Yeah.